All right, this next segment here is going to actually talk about the immune system response. And the first response that we're going to look at are the nonspecific responses or the nonspecific defenses. Basically, the nonspecific response works to attack any irritant or abnormal substance. So it really doesn't care what it is, it's just going to attack it. So this is a general protection against all types of our invaders. And this includes things that we call the first and the second lines of defense. And I often use a football analogy here because you've got your defensive line, which is kind of like your first line of defense, and then you've got your secondary, your linebackers and your safeties that kind of work as a backup for that defensive line. Basically, what the nonspecific responses do and the nonspecific defenses do is they act as fortress walls, like fortress walls around a castle to help keep things out. Our first line of defense includes 4 different things. The skin. The skin is a very important first line of defense because this is our physical barrier between our tissues and the environment. Any breach of the skin actually allows the entry of potentially harmful toxins or chemicals or living things to get into our bodies. Tears contribute by washing away harmful substances from the eyes, and if you think of the opening of your eyes, it's one of those compromised places in our skin. We also have that in our nose, our mouth, our ears. Any place that we have a natural opening is actually kind of a problem for the body because we need to defend there. So like with our mouth and our nose, we use mucus because that helps to trap any foreign materials that may be coming in through our respiratory tract. And we also have, another way. It doesn't always have to go into the respiratory tract. Things can also go into the stomach, and that's what stomach acid does. It actually uses its low pH not to digest food, but actually to kind of sterilize our food or swallowed mucus by destroying living pathogens that may be either on the food or on the mucus. Now, these are very, very effective. However, sometimes things get past these first lines of defense. And before the specific response that we'll talk about in a little bit kicks in, there's another line, the second line of defense, that actually goes to work. So this is activated only if the pathogens manage to get past that first line of defense. And the first line of defense is pretty good. Sometimes, yes, it seems like we're sick all the time, and so it may seem like our first line is not working very well, but comparing the number of so-called attacks that are launched on us and how many our first line of defense keeps out, the number is actually pretty amazing. One of the key factors of our second line of defense is fever, which body temperature raises because, again, just like pH, what we're trying to do is denature enzymes and anything that may be living so that we can disrupt its homeostasis and kill it, and that way then it can't spread or grow. Interferon. Now, if you remember from lymph, we talked about a protein that was detected, and this is that protein. Cells, when they become infected with a virus, actually release a protein called interferon, and what it does is it doesn't help the cell that's been affected. It's going to die. However, the healthy cells that are around that virus-infected cell take in that interferon, and it can actually help prevent the reproduction of the virus. Once that infected cell dies, when it releases new copies of the virus, those other healthy cells can actually prevent themselves from the same fate by using the interferon. And the last one is the inflammatory response, which we're kind of familiar with. Infected tissue starts to become painful and swollen. Now, how the inflammatory response happens can be outlined in these 6 what I'm calling effects. Now, the first 2 things on this list have to happen in this specific order, and they have to happen first. The other 4 are things that can happen really in any sort of sequence, and a lot of them actually happen together, but a lot of them happen as a result of the first 2 steps. So the first step is that histamine, which is a chemical, and heparin are both released. Now, histamine is a chemical that causes swelling, and heparin is actually a chemical that causes increase in the blood flow. So you get this swelling, this retention of fluid, and this increase in the blood flow. This causes white blood cells to get attracted to the area. It's kind of a chemical signal to those white blood cells that we have a problem in a particular area. This increases the blood flow. Again, this goes back to both the histamine and the heparin. And it also allows increased capillary permeability. Again, that's from the histamine. The bacteria are then destroyed by the process of phagocytosis by the white blood cells that have been attracted to the area. And because we're flowing more blood into the area, one of the other things that blood carries is heat, so the temperature of the area goes up. What this results in is redness, heat, pain, and swelling that we typically do associate with an inflammation. And all of these things help our phagocytes reach the affected area and actually enter the tissue. So we do need these cues to happen in order to attract those white blood cells to the area. In the next little segment, we're going to be talking about the specific response, which differs a lot from the nonspecific response. And then after that, we'll be talking about some overreactions of the immune system, some things that can go wrong, as well as the disease of AIDS.